and interview on the street young people in that community, young men ages 18 to 24. Our IRB wouldn't allow us to do the under 18. We had so many difficulties in getting this through our IRB because they were so scared about this neighborhood, and they'd watched too many episodes of The Wire, and they just conjured up all kinds of things that might happen because we're out there doing anonymous surveys about attitudes. So, a classic design is you have these nice before intervention measures and a treatment, and then an after measurement, and the same kind of thing you do in a comparison area. Well, because of all the changes and IRB constraints, the intervention was well under this way before we could do our first observation. So now it looks more like this, at least in McCalvary Park. We have post intervention measures in McCalvary Park. So just to give you an idea of the kinds of questions we were asking, we had a set of about 6 different kinds of scenarios that can commonly lead to shootings, and actually didn't just pull us out of the sky. I read Deanna's book, and I looked at the most common scenarios that people were getting shot over. I did some modifications. We did some focus groups and stuff like that, but we drew from some of the same ideas. And we asked 2 kinds of questions. Asked, under this scenario, would it be okay to shoot somebody, or would it be okay to at least threaten somebody with a gun? We also asked them, because the sort of theories, many of the theories around how our attitudes and norms develop is we care a lot about, of course, what our peers think. So we asked the same kind of questions. What do you think your friends would think is okay? So just to give you a flavor of what we did. So we finally got an IRB approval in the fall of '07, and we did our data collection in November, December of '07. And again, as in McCalvary Park, they're well under the way to doing a lot of important things there. So here's just one of the scenarios, whether it's okay to shoot someone or threaten someone if someone's trying to dance with your girl at a club. So MP is McCalvary Park, the intervention area. Oliver and Union Square, the 2 comparison areas. Their baseline rates of gun violence are almost identical. So you'll see some important differences there in attitudes that we saw very soon after the intervention was underway, which again was pleasantly surprising to us. I put these into a sum scale across all the different scenarios, and we found that McCalvary Park was significantly lower on this scale if you just do a mean comparisons with the other 2 communities. I also tried to control for, maybe there's other things different in that community, maybe the age structure is different, maybe more criminally involved or less criminally involved. After controlling for everything, McCalvary Park still had a very significantly lower level of support for using guns to resolve conflicts. So we then went out to estimate the program effects on homicides and shootings. We had police data beginning January 1, 2003 through the 3rd quarter of 2008. And the 2 outcomes we focused on are non-fatal shootings and homicides, because those were the things most directly they were targeting. And we set up a panel data for each police post over that time period for each month. We do what I would refer to, and many refer to, as a difference in difference estimation. What does that mean? Basically what that means is you compare before-after change in the areas with the program with the before-after change in places that didn't get the program. That's basically what that means. There's some seasonality to shootings in Baltimore and in many other cities. When we just merge our two outcomes of homicides and non-fatal shootings, this is the graph for McElderry Park. This is where the intervention begins, about right here. You'll see a notable decline right here, but then starts to bump up in the very last part of the last quarter, or excuse me, the third quarter of 2008. This red line represents the average in all the other posts that are in the upper quartile in number of shootings. Didn't make any sense, in my mind anyway, to throw in a bunch of police posts where people very rarely get shot. It just wasn't going to be all that useful. So we focused on those police posts. And we also wanted to look at border police posts, and you see that there might be some beneficial thing going on that is rubbing off beyond the immediate target area. For reasons that will become apparent in a moment, I decided to separate these two outcomes. I have to admit, going in, I sort of thought, it's a little bit of luck whether someone's going to die or not die in any given shooting, depending on the person's aim, how quickly they got emergency treatment, so on and so forth. I'm now not of that mind. We first looked at just comparing homicide rates. And this is just sort of a pre-post simple comparison of means, monthly means in McElderry Park. The other posts where there was no intervention and the posts that are bordering McElderry Park, there were no homicides during the, excuse me, I believe it was 18 months of post-intervention time period that we had in these data. But prior to that, there had been basically a homicide every 3 months. This is a neighborhood that's, I believe, 44 square blocks, not a big area. So they averaged almost one non-fatal shooting a month and one homicide every 3 months. Pretty bad area. The border posts also showed a very significant reduction as well. But interestingly, other posts in Baltimore were also having a downturn, I think attributable to some new policing efforts that were focusing more on, excuse me, getting illegal guns off the streets. In Elwood Park, that was later added on to the East Baltimore intervention. We got a slightly different intervention point here, and it only represents 5 months here. We did not see any change in homicides. Union Squared actually went up. This is, again, a very short time span, March through July of 2008. So we did some regression models. It obviously didn't make sense to pool all of these into one intervention area. You had to look at them separately. McElderry Park, not surprisingly, you have a highly significant reduction in homicide risk, no significant change at Elwood Park, and unfortunately it shows an increase in Union Square. This is a place that really failed in their implementation of the program. The other thing I'll say right now is that it was really a close call when, as an evaluator, you decide, okay, this is when the program began, particularly because they had such problems getting it going. And we're really on the fence whether they call March or April the beginning point. If you take March out, that this goes away. All of these homicides, as well as the non-fatal shootings and other data I'll show you, principally happened in March. So I don't think we can say a lot about Union Square as it relates to this program. So we looked at non-fatal shootings, and there was a slight decline, but not very significant, and it was actually less than in some other areas, which was